Okay, folks. So this really is a good demonstration of the kind of people who are running the government now. Just absolutely remorseless psychopaths. So here's End Wokeness, as we call the original scumbag douchebag. End Wokeness tweets out Judge Paula Sinis orders Trump or Zinnis, I don't know how to say it. I'll call her Zinnis to be easy.
Hmm.
Judge Paula Zinnis orders Trump to return a suspected MS-13 member from an El Salvadoran jail. Breaking April 4th. He tweets that out. Now, the president, not our president, the Salvadoran president, Nayib Bukele, tweets out the sort of cockeyed rabbit meme. Like, what? Why would I do that? Right? Just giving a real smart ass response to this judge's order. Elon Musk amplifies that, of course, with a laugh emoji. So, just to recap, judge orders the return of a quote suspected MS-13 gang member, and you have the president of El Salvador, along with essentially the most powerful man on earth, confidant to President Donald Trump, Elon Musk, basically laughing that off, basically mocking that post. So,
Is this the same guy who was practically crying about his stock price?
right, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
wanted all the empathy in the world for that. Laughing at this. So, William Wallace Welker asks Grok, Twitter's AI, is this guy that the judge ordered returned a citizen of El Salvador? So, see, he asks, okay, so who is the person? Because in wokeness, of course, and this is why I say bullshit travels very fast on X. There's no link to any source. There's no real information about the person in question. And so one of the commenters asked Twitter's AI for, some more context. And so Grok responds, hey, thanks for tagging me in this. So about that guy the judge ordered to be returned, yeah, he's a citizen of El Salvador. His name is Kilmar Abrego Garcia, which may be familiar to those who watch our show on a regular basis. And he was living legally in the U.S. with a work permit until he got, wrongly deported back to El Salvador. Apparently, it was all a big mix-up, and now a U.S. judge, Paula Zinnis, is demanding he be brought back by April 7th. That would be tomorrow at this recording. The Trump administration's been pushing these hardline deportation policies, and this case is causing quite the stir, especially with El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, getting involved. It's a mess, really, but that's the gist of it. Stay tuned. It's bound to get more interesting. So, yes, for those who watch our show on a regular basis, you will remember we did a fairly lengthy segment about this when it broke. This was the case where an admitted, meaning admitted by the Trump administration itself, administrative error sent a Maryland father to a Salvadoran prison. He was rounded up outside a Home Depot. He had tattoos that the guys he was rounded up with said were gang tattoos, that he was a gang member. In fact, I'm sure he has tattoos, but this I might be confusing the crown no, the crown tattoos was the hairdresser. See, there's so many of these errors that it's hard to keep track of. This is the guy who got ratted on wrongfully by the guys who he was rounded up with the outside the Home Depot, and the cops said they found no evidence that he was in any gang or any criminal organization of any kind. But he was sent to CCOT mistakenly. And yes, here's the actual story of what happened. Judge reaffirms order to return Maryland man erroneously deported to El Salvador. So this is the latest update on this. A federal judge is sticking by her demand that the Trump administration seek the immediate return of a Maryland man erroneously sent to El Salvador, where he is being held in one of the most notoriously inhumane and dangerous prisons in the world. U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnis rejected the Trump administration's entreaty, I never even knew how to say that word, to back off her Friday order, which requires the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia by Monday night. The Justice Department said the court had no power to order the decision and was intruding on President Donald Trump's exclusive power to direct foreign policy. But Zinnis described the erroneous deportation of Abrego Garcia, who was under a 2019 court order not to be sent to El Salvador for fear of reprisal by a violent gang, as a grievous error that requires his return. Yes, the reason he came to America to begin with is because he was fleeing the gang.
Right. Yeah.
Defendants seized Abrego Garcia without any lawful authority, held him in 3 separate domestic detention centers without legal basis, failed to present him to any immigration judge or officer, and forcibly transported him to El Salvador in direct contravention of immigration laws, Innes wrote in a 22-page opinion issued just after 1 a.m. Sunday morning. Once there, U.S. officials secured his detention in a facility that by design deprives its detainees of adequate food, water, and shelter, fosters routine violence, and places him with his persecutors. That's right. Now, by persecutors, you could mean the gang members who he was fleeing in the first place, or you could mean the El Salvadoran government. I don't know how to interpret that. Both seem fitting and valid in my view. But the crux of this story is that even when the administration admits that it made a mistake, sending a man who should not have been deported at all to CCOT, you still have Elon Musk laughing about this. You still have Bukele tweeting sarcastically about this. And wokeness, he's both a moron and a liar. I don't know how much he looked into this. My suspicion is that he really doesn't care all that much about stories like this and doesn't bother researching them all that much. But certainly a guy like Elon.
It's outrage porn for chuds.
Right. It's just outrage porn for morons. But certainly Elon Musk and Bukele himself know that this is clearly in reference to an admitted mistake by the United States government. So even when they admit their error, their attitude when you ask them to fix it is just, fuck you. Fuck you. What do we need to go get this guy for? Is he really worth the trouble? That's what you're dealing with, folks. Even when they admit they fucked up, they don't care.
Right.
They just don't care.
Right. You put a man in hell. And this is where, if you're getting behind these people and supporting these people, and you're assuming that that's never going to come back on you, think about how psychopathic you have to be. Suppose you had the power to take a man who was unjustly put in that environment with a stroke of a pen, with a phone call. You could free them from that situation, and you thought that was funny, the idea that you would do that. Why would you think that people like that care about you? Those are sick people. That's a level of evil that most people could never even dream of. See, this is, I mentioned the other day, if you had $500 billion, you'd want to help people with it, right? That's the catch-22. Generally, people who make $500 billion are people who don't think that way.
Right. That's how they amass that level of wealth and, in this case, influence in the first place. But just totally sociopathic, completely cruel. These are the people who are supposedly the family values people, right? This guy was a dad, right? Yep. I mean, it's absolutely depraved. Absolutely depraved. And this is why, you really do have to wonder how far they'll take it, because these are people who obviously have contempt for anyone who tries to check them, even when they admit that they were wrong, even when they admit they fucked up. They have nothing but disrespect for any check to their power.
Yeah, well, this is the question. You could argue they've already done it, defying the court order by not bringing people back already with, I forget the name of the judge that they're at war with.
The thin guy. I forget his name too,
you could say that they've already ignored his orders. This takes it to another level. They've got a direct judge's order. This specific guy has to be brought back. Are they going to follow the full Curtis Yarvin playbook? Anybody who hasn't looked into Curtis Yarvin, if you want to understand what this administration is doing on this end, that's the roadmap. More than Project 2025. That's the roadmap. Go into government, flood the zone, fire a bunch of people, and this is the next part. Defy court orders. When the courts say, no, this is unconstitutional, say, okay, so what are you going to do about it? This
Right.
could be the case. Let's see.
Please clap.